Next section is going to deal with 4 different ways that we can deal with a difficult situation. You know, as human beings, we all have problems in the outer world. We all have difficulties. We have challenges, bad situations. We get into relationships where there's tensions and disharmony, conflict at work or in relationships. And so there's 4 basic ways that in the exterior world we can deal with these things. First one is we can change the outer world. We can change the situation as best we can. The second is that we can change ourselves. We can look at the situation and maybe see it from a different perspective or change some attitude or some behavior on our part. The third way that we can handle a situation is we can leave it. We can make a conscious choice to exit the relationship or the job or the situation. And there is a 4th way that people often handle difficult situations, that they do nothing. They ignore it. They hope it will simply go away. Now, the first 3 of these are empowering, where we're at choice. We're not at the effect. If we continually practice doing nothing, we will be disempowered at the effect, letting the world kind of dictate to us the situation. So let's talk about each of these 4. First, we can choose to change the exterior situation. We may not know exactly what to do, in which case what I do is when I'm looking at maybe changing the situation is I get out a pen and paper in my little notepad and I mind map. What are the different options? I let my mind, my rational mind and my creative mind just brainstorm, think about, we could do this, we could do this. I make a little list of the different options. And then I look at the options and I kind of evaluate each option by looking at the pros and the cons of each choice. So option 1, I make a list of all the pros, and then I make a list of all the cons. I go through each of the options and make little lists of the pros and the cons for each of the options. In other words, I use my rational mind to try to understand it. Swami Shankarananda says it's okay to even take your meditation time to use your rational mind to do a kind of thinking meditation to work out a way that's most beneficial. Having done all of that, I then go into the silence and I hold each alternative in mind and see how it feels. Should I do alternative 1? And I articulate what that is. I will do this and this and this and see how I feel. Does that expand me? Do I feel an expansion in my own consciousness, or do I feel a contraction? Does this alternative bring me peace, or do I feel some tension? And I can tell you from my own experience, when I listen to the gut feeling, the inner feeling, it's always right. There have been times, for example, that I've had a list of things, a list this long of pros for doing something and only maybe one item that said don't do it. And I did this process and my gut said don't do it. But because the list was so long of all the good things, I did it anyway, and it was a disaster. So the final decider in each of these options is really the feeling inside. Is it uplifting? Do I feel open and expansive, or do I feel contracted? So it's this upward shift that we're really looking for. And you can do that when you're trying to decide whether to change it, to change yourself, or to leave it. When it comes to changing myself, I begin to ask myself, what is it about my own being that's creating this situation? One of the yogic dictums is that the world is as we see it. So I begin to examine my attitude, my perspective. How am I seeing this? And then I ask myself, is there a different way that I could see this. If I'm having a problem with a person, for example, I'll try to understand his perspective. And often this shift can come just by that insight. And you can use the same methodology of inquiring about yourself. How shall I change myself? Now it may, after contemplation and careful thought, maybe you recognize that it's time to leave the situation. Maybe a relationship, maybe a job. Then you simply need the courage to do it. There's a prayer that I'd like to share with you that when I'm making a decision like this, I often recite it either beginning the process or ending it. And it's an invocation of the self. Here it says Lord, but the Lord is the self within. It says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's my blessing to you.
So all the four have been covered?
The fourth one, do nothing. I don't really encourage that. Right? So those are empowering. The first three are empowering. The fourth one isn't. Do you want me to say something about that? Is this still recording? Yeah. Okay, so we'll come to this point. So I would encourage you to use the first three choices because these are empowering. These is you can be a choice. You can make a choice. Don't let the universe decide for you. Make a choice. Own your own power. Choose, then act. Okay. Let me move into a visioning practice. So this actually ties in a little bit with what we just did. So now I'm going to speak with you about a process that I do when I'm interested in manifesting something or discovering my purpose in life. It's a process called visioning. Visioning is a process that was developed by Dr. Michael Beckwith at the Agape Church in California, and he used it in manifesting his own ministry, his own church. And this visioning is not to be confused with visualization, which is a good practice in and of itself. Visualization is when you know what you want, what you desire, then you visualize it as a means of manifesting. This is different than that. This is actually looking for a higher purpose in life. It's a form of self-inquiry where we turn within and ask our higher power. We ask our inner self, the highest part of our own being, who am I? It's a form of self-inquiry. Who am I at my highest best? What's my true purpose in life? What's my calling? What's my life work? What should I study in school? So it's inquiring to discover our highest good, to discover our highest self. So this entails a form of meditation where we sit quietly and we do an invocation. We invoke our higher power as we understand it. So if you want to invoke God or Shiva or Allah or Buddha, you can do that. Otherwise, you can simply invoke your own self. And then we sit quietly in meditation so that the mind becomes completely still. And into that stillness, into that silence, I will ask questions. And I simply ask you to let me drop the questions in as if I'm dropping a stone into the water. So I'm dropping a thought into your mind, into your consciousness. And we simply allow the inner self to respond. This is more or less the scientific method. Science is ask a question and receive the answer. So in much the same way, this is a mystical process of discovering our mission in life and discovering who we are. And I will ask a series of questions, and you just simply receive. Try to keep the mind quiet and receive. It's not an active, dynamic process. This is one of being receptive to the will of the divine within it, within us, expressing itself. And then we'll kind of end the meditation with an expression of gratitude. And the final part of the process is, if we were in a group, we would share what we received in the meditation. But I would invite you to actually write in your journal whatever you received as a download. It may be a complete download of your mission in life, or how you can improve, all those sorts of things. So we're going to do the process together. You could do it this one time, but you can also use this section of the program over a period of time. You can play it over and over again and see what gets revealed. So let's begin. I want you to sit comfortably. Begin to close your eyes. Begin the process of turning within. So let your mind become quiet. And then into this stillness, invoke your higher power. It may be a deity or a God external to yourself that you pray to. It may be to your own inner consciousness. So call that forth now. I'm going to just say a few words to demonstrate how I do it. And you can use this as your invocation, but I would certainly invite you to invoke on your own as well. So as I sit quietly, I ask, I invoke the Supreme Being, the one called by many names, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Shiva, Shakti, Buddha, Muktananda, Nityananda. I recognize that these are symbols for the highest consciousness. And so in this moment, I invoke that highest consciousness called by many names, recognizing that that consciousness is my true self. So I invoke the inner self, Paramatman. And we'll sit quietly now for a few minutes in the silence, having invoked the grace-bestowing power of God. You may call this the Guru or the Holy Spirit, that power which bestows the grace that removes the veil of illusion and reveals the truth consciousness within us. So sit quietly. We're going to do this in the silence for just 2 minutes. When you're doing this on your own, I would invite you to do it a little longer until you reach the place where you are completely still and completely quiet. So let's sit in the silence for a minute, and I will simply drop a question in. You receive it and see what your inner self responds. What is my inner self's highest vision for my life? What is my life's work, my mission, my purpose, my highest purpose? Lord, beloved, what is my gift to the world? What is my role in this world? What is my work? What are my destined to do, using my best gifts? What is my contribution to the world? In order to become my best self, what limiting beliefs do I need to release and let go of in order to become my highest good? What do I need to let go of? How must I grow in order to become the best version of myself? What should I study? What inner spiritual qualities do I need to embody? How shall I grow in order to become what I'm meant to be? And now we ask our inner self, is there anything else that you would have me know in this moment? I am open and receptive to receive the message of my own highest self. Speak to me, Lord.